Hello all, my name is Tyler,
And I'm John.
and together we are DeLong Rigging Solutions, or DRS for short.
All right, let's talk about how we would secure a counterweight line set for it to be out of balance. And this is something that we might do if we have a busy loading going on and there's 2 or 3 pipes being worked on and we want to secure this. We're still going to be at the rail, we're still going to be nearby, but we're not going to be standing right at it. So we want it to be secure while we're not focused on it. We're going to talk about 3 ways to secure it. The first way I'm going to talk about is with an axe handle. An axe handle is an easily accessible piece of hardware, so we'll look at that first. I've kicked the foot block and pulled the back line to lift the foot block. Then I'm going to take my first wrap and wrap that around a couple of times until I've got some slack. Now I'm going to put my axe handle into that opening, and I'm going to continue to take a couple of wraps to tighten that up. And then I'm going to put my handle through the T-rail to keep it from spinning. This is a very secure wrap and will hold a substantial load. The axe handle is not my first choice if I'm not going to be right here with it. It will work, but I might take another precaution and take a piece of sash cord and tie it to the T-rail, or just to secure it, so that if in the process of loading the batten they bounce the pipe around, which could bounce the arbor, the lines could move, things could swing around a little bit, and just the essence of this method is that axe handle has to stay in place. If it comes loose from the T-rail and slips and tips, then it can spin and turn. But as long as it's securely in place, that method is very secure and will hold a substantial load. A second method is very similar, except that here where I've got that wrap twisted together, I'm going to use a rope binder. Now, rope binders come in various shapes and sizes. They're manufactured by at least a couple of different companies. This particular one is homemade. It's older than I am. I couldn't tell you who made it or what they modeled it after. But the basic premise is that when you put the binder on and you put pressure on it, it bends the rope. And that friction created by that rope being bent out of line can hold a pretty substantial load. When I hook it here at the bottom, I have to finagle around a little bit so it gets a good hook on both lines. And then if I let go of it, it'll just lay against the neighboring rail here, or neighboring operating line. I'm going to take it the other way, around the lines on the other side, so that I'm actually putting a little more twist into it, instead of letting it relax a half twist. This is a very secure method of holding the line set while it's out of balance, and will hold more than the arbor in most cases. One other point to consider here is that because we know we're going to load this out of balance, and for a period of time while the piece of scenery is being assembled it's going to be out of balance, I'm going to go ahead and take the ring off the handle, because once it's out of balance and this rope has more tension on it, it'll become even more difficult than it is right now to get that ring off the handle. So I will go ahead and I'll leave the lock closed just because there's no reason not to. But the ring I will go ahead and take off before it's loaded. Another method, which is a good method, another similar method that doesn't require extra hardware or requires more easily accessible hardware, would be to use a snub line. And when we snub it, the line we're snubbing it with is not going to hold the load. The line we're snubbing it with is going to hold the wraps in the line. So we're going to wrap the operating line. We're going to kick the foot block. We're going to take slack. We're going to take our wraps and work our wraps around nice and tight. And then I've got about a 10-foot piece of sash cord. Sash cord, depending on what exact sash cord you have, is probably going to be somewhere in the 600 to 800 pound tensile strength, but it depends on the particular product that you have. There's a lot of different options out there. Now I'm going to tie a prusik knot. So I've got a loop through there. I'm going to put my 2 tails through as a choke. And I'm going to keep wrapping around one more time and come through my loop again. And that forms my prusik knot. I'm going to snug my prusik knot down and smooth it out. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull my wrap around one more time. Now I'm going to tie it. I'm going to go off axis just a little bit so that I'm pulling it in a direction that keeps my wrap tight. I'm going to take my longer end, drop it behind the locking rail, bring it up. You see I've put a loop in it ahead of time, so I've got a figure 8 with a loop. I'm going to put my tail through there and snug that up. I don't want to snug it too tight because I want the load to stay on the other line, but I want it tight enough that it holds the wrap. Now I'm going to take my tail, I'm going to tie, I'm going to tie a half hitch with a bite and snug it down. I'm going to keep it kind of pinched there so it holds it where I put it until I get the half hitch down against it. Now I've got a loop that I can pull out pretty easy, but because it pulls out pretty easy, I'm going to put a second half hitch on it. That will be easy to untie because it doesn't have the actual load on it, but it secures that pull line. All right, so there we've got a line set that's secured to allow it to be out of balance, and used a snub line to do it. You'll notice that I have taken the ring off of the handle because between the wraps and the out of balance load, it will be very difficult to get the ring back off of the handle once it's out of balance. As I mentioned earlier, sash cord that I use for this snub is around 600 to 800 pounds tensile strength, but there's a wide variety of sash cords out there, and personally I think it's a little light for the job at hand. I prefer to use a little heavier rope, like a 3/8 rope. A polyester braided rope would be right up my alley as far as my preferred material to use for snubs. The reason for that is that when you've got a wrap, as long the snub is holding the wrap, but if for any reason that the wrap shifts a little bit, and the prusik knot will hold, which means that the load is going to transfer to the snub, even though you've got it wrapped on the operating line. And because of that possibility, I like just using a heavier line than a sash cord.
Please remember that DeLong Rigging Solutions one-shot training videos are meant as general overviews. Every system is different. Every venue has different procedures. All statements made make certain assumptions about systems and venue similarities. Nothing can replace on-site training with a qualified individual. If ever you have a question or concern about rigging, do not hesitate to reach out to us or another qualified vendor in your area.